Hi everyone, this is Reverend Josh at Boise First United Church of Christ. We're so glad you've chosen to listen to our sermon this morning. We hope that you find yourself encouraged as we meet you wherever you are on life's journey. Can you all see us down here? Yeah, I feel so low to the ground looking up at all of you on the incline. Well, I'm so glad that you're here with us this morning.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me. And I wanted to also thank you for being such a welcoming group to me today. Thank you.
Yes, we're so glad you're here. And you've been in Idaho for a long time.
Yes.
So tell us a little about your history and background in Idaho.
I grew up in a little town called Emmett, Idaho, which isn't too far away. Any Emmett friends out here? And it's changed quite a bit. In fact, in my family, I'm called, oh, you're the other one, because I don't live in Emmett. I'm the only one of my immediate family that doesn't live in Emmett. But my mom and her family grew up, they split their time in Boise, so my mom is a proud Bora graduate. Then they also had a ranch out in Owyhee County, so they got the city experience and the country experience. That's my mom's family. And then my dad is a fifth generation Emmettite, what I guess that's what you would call it. So all of my family's there, but he was a teacher at Boise High School. So lots of deep roots and connections to the valley itself. So one of not very many people anymore who can say I'm an Idahoan from the ground up.
I love that.
I was born in Boise though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is there a hospital in Emmett? Is that why?
There is, but my mother, being from Boise, didn't quite trust it enough because it wasn't. So St. Luke's it was for me.
There it is. Amazing. And do you have a memory from school growing up that sort of shapes how you try to lead now?
Yeah. Both my parents were educators. My mom was a kindergarten teacher and a fourth grade teacher. So I would say they were my first teachers. And I will give a shout out to teachers in general. I could spend hours talking about how much of an influence teachers have been on me as a child and as an adult. I've learned so much from them. But I'm going to talk about my first teacher, which was my mom. And I'll try not to get emotional about this.
You can get emotional. We like this here. We have tissues in all the pews, but nothing up here.
So when my mom, so I'm one of four. I'm the oldest of four. And I think at the second child, she went, okay, we're planning a big family, so I'm going to choose to stay home with the kids, which was kind of a thing to do-ish. And then she ended up going back to teaching when we were all in school age. But one of the things she kind of did as a side job, she substituted, thank goodness, because we always need subs, good subs, but she also was what was called the migrant coordinator for the district at that time. So my mom speaks Spanish, and at the time, so this is in the 70s, so I would say we've hopefully made some progress, but we used to, in Emmett, because it was at the time very agricultural, we had what was called a labor camp. And at the time, the labor camp was not a very lovely place for people who labored all day to find rest at the end of the day. It was very, very simplistic. And I remember there was a chickenpox outbreak. And so my mom went out to the labor camp to see what they needed. And there was quite a lot of suffering of children, and she brought my sister and I, and I don't know if I pronounced this right, but calamine lotion, you know, that pink stuff that you'd put to take, and so she was armed with that, and went and was helping the mothers of these suffering children by, you know, telling them what to do and helping them. And I remember being really scared as a child, because I entered this place that was not like my own home. And, oh my goodness, it's been a long time ago, but...
Thanks for trusting us.
Yeah, thank you. I just remember watching my mother lead in service and care. And I carry that with me as a servant to children and families. And I know the role of a superintendent sounds like a big deal. It's really not. I'm a teacher first, always, and a servant as well. So I'm very grateful to have had that experience, even though I was really scared. My sister and I, remember, were in the back corner watching my mom. And the amount of, as an adult looking back on that, the amount of respect that I had. And I'm so grateful to grow up in that environment where that was modeled to me and to my family. So I have, both my sisters are teachers because of my parents. And then my brother, he's the youngest. We call him Golden Child still, even though he's 42. He is not a teacher, but married a teacher. So it's just kind of who we are, I think, because of my parents' example to us.
Yeah, I love that story. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for getting emotional. I didn't think I would.
You never have to apologize for emotions here. We're a weepy church. It's okay. And we're also a church that I think really values what you talked about.
Yeah.
That servant leadership, that servant modelhood.
Absolutely.
We're a congregational church, and so we are not very hierarchical here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of shared leadership and service, and so I always try to say I won't do anything that I won't ask someone else. I won't ask someone else to do something I wouldn't do myself, right? So there's some beauty to that. So I'm curious, you were in CUNA for 11 years before you came here.
Yeah.
What made you choose to come to Boise School District?
When I started my teaching career, my dad, having been a teacher at Boise High, he told me, he said, don't apply anywhere else. I had done my student teaching in CUNA, and I kind of grew up professionally there, but he said, don't go anywhere else. Apply in Boise. You may have to sub for a while. It's okay. They'll eventually want to hire you. And I did not take my dad's advice. And I actually chose to work in CUNA. And I think I chose it because it was like what I grew up with, a small community at the time. It's not so much small anymore. And after COVID, things got really, really hard. And I'm a believer that a job of a leader is to protect those who do important and hard things. And we had a change in our school board, and they were really questioning things that were deeply of value to me and my team. And I realized that I couldn't serve anymore in a place that was not going to allow me to protect people who I needed to protect and to do the work I needed to do for kids. And so my dad's suggestion was ringing through my ears, and I thought, I would love to see what's out there in the Boise School District, because I knew a lot of I'd worked with the school board and the leaders, and I felt like I fit in. And so that's really kind of what led me to Boise. So my dad is 86, he's still living, and he was like, finally, you took my advice. It took me 30 years to do that, but he was so proud that I chose Boise because he and my mom also taught for a short time at Jackson, just felt like it was the place that I should be. And every time I go to a school, I meet with great people like you, I'm reinforced that it was the decision that I needed to make.
Yeah. Well, just like your dad, we're proud and glad you're here too.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And as you start this new school year in this new role, what kind of things have you spotted out as like the opportunities and then like the challenges in the district?
There's so many opportunities and challenges, right? When you're working with making sure every single child gets what they need. And every year we try to get closer to that. So I think, I'll talk about literacy for a moment. I know it's overused and over-described, but to me, literacy is a human right issue. And I've said this outside of this congregation, if a child cannot read, is not literate, the life ahead is hard and not what we want for our children. We want children who have opportunities and they have the choice to say yes or no. We know that children who aren't literate, have deep literacy skills, face a life of crime, potentially face a life of overemployed but undercompensated. So those are not joyous. Or they may face a life where they're dependent on others. And we want to make sure that that isn't the case. So we have some continued deep work to do there. It's an opportunity, that's great. And the great news in Boise is there's so many, like the video said, it's so hard to see yourself on video. I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to watch it. But there's so many opportunities that we can build on. It's not like there aren't efforts that have already been strong and started and they're deeply embedded in our schools. It's just taking it to the next level. So our theme this year is world class, so we're excellent. We're good at what we do. We want to be great. We want to be world class. So I would say that is one of the opportunities to improve is improve literacy outcomes for our children, all children. And we have all sorts of children that come from different languages to us, and so we want to preserve that, but we also want them to learn to be literate in the English language for the opportunities. The second thing that I would say is we want to have I want to say it's a commitment to our community that when a student graduates from one of our schools, that they exhibit these values that we as a community value, and that they exhibit skills that can take them to their next level. And they're not all the same. So I really believe, and our team believes, that every human, that every child that we work with has a gift to give to the world. And so part of that, you heard me say a graduate profile. I don't really like that name, but that's what we're calling it right now. But that every child understands by the time they leave what that gift is and how they might contribute that gift to making our world better. So those are two of the opportunities. Challenges. What is so great about Boise is Boiseans support their public schools like I have never seen before. It is lovely. The challenge is making sure we keep that. As the communities change, as people move in, that they become a part of what the Boise School District is. It's so lovely anytime I go places, like even my friends that were sitting behind me today were talking about our grandkids are having such a great experience in the Boise schools, that we continue that. And what is special about Boise is what the hymn we just sang about all are welcome. We believe that. Even though it was a poster on a wall, we hired Sarah. We're proud of her. She's an excellent teacher. It's something that we deeply believe in and practice. And I think with legislation that has been passed over the last years, it becomes more and more challenging for our teachers. Teachers are used to just doing the right thing for every single child. And our legislation has made them pause and have to think about that, which is ridiculous. So I think what we've chosen to do and the advice that we've given to our teachers is to say, okay, we want to be in compliance with the law, but we also know that a welcoming, connecting, environment for every child is seriously important to the welfare of every single child and family. So I think the challenge is that balancing act. And I think the challenge in that is kind of a lack of trust in public institutions too. And so that's why I seize this opportunity, because it's an opportunity to reaffirm that the values that you have here are still alive in our public schools, even though there's attempts by nefarious folks to make sure that doesn't happen. So continuing your engagement with our lawmakers is very helpful to us.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might say, well, what does Boise School District have to do with church, right? I'm like, well, why are these things crossing over
together
today? But that's the thing, is we're all together. We're in this together. Like, our community is formed by us.
Absolutely.
And so we do have to continue, as you said, the challenge. We have to continue to show up and value our school districts and let our voices be heard at meetings, as well as calling our representatives to say, this is how we want our children and our grandchildren to be informed. So this is such an important conversation for us to hear, like, what your vision is, so that we can help amplify that.
Absolutely. And who forms us as people? Our communities of worship, our churches, our schools, you know, they should be working together.
That's exactly right. Share a little bit about one of the values that we have here, right? Is just trying to figure out how do we provide support and all our welcome environment, inclusive environment for people who are often marginalized, whether that's people who are marginalized because of their race or their ability or their gender or their immigration status, or even their sexuality. So what is it that you're doing, or how do you think about creating inclusive communities in places that's not always a shared value?
It just still shocks me that that's not a shared value of us as Americans, especially knowing what our foundational principles have been. I'll tell you, it's just a moral thing to do, the right thing to do, to make sure every child who walks through our doors is connected. But we also talk about the mental health side of that too, that when children feel welcome, that they belong to something, that they look forward to something, that's called what's called a protective factor for mental health. And so even though it's the right thing to do, there's also science that's involved in this, so that students would not, they're in a protected place, they would not self-harm. They would not harm someone else. They wouldn't put themselves in places where they would maybe use substance abuse, or, you know, those sorts of things, that they would be depressed. So not only is it morally the right thing to do, it's also the right thing to do for the development of a human being. And then the third thing that is also science-based is that when a child feels belonging and connectedness within a classroom, they're going to learn more. And so it's the investment that you all make as taxpayers, you're getting that investment back. And not that you're probably too worried about that, but it you know, when I talk to people who question this, I try to come from different angles. So a child, it's like a 0.53 impact, which means that a child learns more than a year's worth of learning, more than a year, which is what you would expect a child to learn, a year's worth of learning, but more than that, when they feel a connectedness in their classroom or with others. So how are we doing that? You know, junior high's hard. I'll start with that. That's been we all have kind of have that flashback to pain and misery. So we kind of started with that group, which is where Sarah is at East, right?
Yeah.
Her talents and her gifts are being used in that really hard space. So we've identified that as an area where students have reported that they don't feel as connected to the schools. So our schools have been, and our teachers have been so, and with partners, done some really great work there. So they have like a Friday club day. Kids get to identify what clubs they want to be a part of. Is it karaoke? Yes. And we don't have phones, so there's no recording of kids trying to do things and sing and do all of those wonderful things. Is it Magic the Gathering, you know, club? It's whatever they want, and the adult is with them in whatever space. So they, even though the school may be big, they have a group that they belong to in a smaller way too. So that's been a huge shout out. We have, for the last few years, done what's in our elementaries, done what's called a morning meeting. So at the beginning, just kind of like what you did here, where we just connected with everyone. We do that in our elementaries at the beginning of the day. There's a connection time for kids to share and connect, and it's also a time for the teacher to see, kind of gauge, like, how are my students doing? So if there are things, you know, kids that are not being typical, right, in their behavior, like, I'm going to go do some extra check on that child. So that may be your question. Hopefully I'm answering it. And then high school, I would say, is more of, they start to, when we can really do the preventative in that elementary and junior high, they find their way and they find their people. But there's always work to be done, like making sure in the high school that every student has, because they have so many different teachers, every student has at least one adult for which they're excited about coming to school to see. And we say it in this phrase that if you're not there, that adult's going to miss you, right? So that is kind of a effort that we're making at the high school level, and just what every amazing teacher in every single classroom across our district does every day.
That's beautiful.
That we don't even know, right?
Right.
We don't
There's
even
so
know.
much unknown.
Yeah.
As we wrap up our time together, I'm curious, we just blessed these backpacks, and we're getting ready to send these kids back to school, some of them starting preschool tomorrow, some of them going back on Wednesday. And so I'm curious if there's one thing that you could tell every parent and grandparent, perhaps in the room as well, in this room, as they take these next steps, what would that be to be a good partner with you?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for trusting us with the most important persons in your life every day in our classroom. So I want to thank you for that. We don't take that trust for granted. And I would also say that, actually, can I say two things?
Please,
I know you said one. Two things. One, if something isn't working, or if you're noticing something that isn't right, tell your teacher. And if your teacher's like, I'm not sure what to do, tell your principal. We want to make sure the kids are taken care of, that they feel safe, that you feel like they're getting the best education possible. And if that isn't happening, we want to know. So that is a really important partnership to us. And then the second thing, and I can just tell you are a congregation that already does this, we know that for every negative that gets shared, to counter that, you need 5 positives. And so if you just see something lovely that's happening in your school, would you share that? It can be just a sticky note. It can be an email. It can be just a conversation with somebody to say, hey, I saw you do that, and I noticed that. That moves mountains for our teachers who are servants every day. The little things that you see, if you share that, it doesn't have to be a big dynamic thing. That matters a lot. So that would be my advice.
Beautiful. And that applies to everybody.
Everybody.
Whether you have kids or not. So
everybody.
That hits home.
Everybody. Yeah.
Would you all thank me for Wendy joining us today?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course. And I just said thank me for having, I do not mean that. Thank Wendy. No, thank Wendy for joining us today. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Boise First UCC podcast. We hope you found inspiration, encouragement, and a deeper connection to your faith and community. If you enjoyed today's conversation, we encourage you to subscribe, to leave a review, or share with your friends and family so that they can more quickly find us. Also, if you benefited from today's podcast, we invite you to make a donation at boisefirstucc.org/donate. Until next time, may you go in peace with curiosity and courage and a heart full of hope as we look toward our progressive Christian faith.